Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Pip McKay and welcome to NLP for Business, where we look at the mindset and communication tools for business success and personal well-being. And today what we're going to be looking at is how to model the mindset of success using NLP. So I first came across NLP when I was a teacher at a performing arts high school. So I used to teach acting to really high up students who were going to be, being on stage or being in film. And so what happened, I found, was a lot of those kids had quite a lot of problems. And they would come to me for help because I'd be rehearsing with them on the weekend. And I didn't really have any tools apart from my own experience to help them. And they didn't want to go to the school counsellor. They wanted to come to me because they knew me and they trusted me. So I was looking around for some tools because I didn't want to go back to university and restudy counselling or do a degree in psychology. So I looked around for some tools and I found NLP. In fact, what happened was on this one day, a friend of mine sent me a tape in those days of NLP, and then I also received in the mail a tape of NLP, and then that night I was about to get an investment property, and the guy who was coming to advise me, he'd just done exactly the same program. So I took that as a sign and I jumped straight in, and I did 7 days of practitioner training, and in those days 14 days of master practitioner training, and then 3 weeks later I found myself flying to LA and doing NLP trainers training. In those days it was only taught in America. So then I came back and I started to use the tools, and they had profoundly changed my life, and particularly what I'm going to share with you today. And it was this whole mindset and way of thinking and emotional intelligence that really blew me away, and I was able to really apply with those kids and also move out of teaching students and really going into the corporate arena. So I want to share these tools with you today because I really think that they'll help you in leadership and also help you with your teams. So let's first look at exactly what NLP is. Well, the N stands for neuro, which is the mind. And NLP looks at two parts of the mind, the subconscious mind down here and the conscious mind. And really NLP looks at the conscious mind as a light of awareness. So it's our awareness outside of ourselves, and it's also our awareness inside of ourselves. So right at this moment, you might not be thinking of something that happened to you at school, but if I asked you about what is this angle here, you might remember that that's a right angle, but before that, your light of consciousness wasn't thinking about that. It was simply thinking about listening to me, hopefully. So this is what the conscious mind is, and that means that there's this vast array of tools that live in the unconscious mind, all of our memories, our imagination, in fact, everything that we're not simply thinking about in this moment. So understanding the mind and how to understand and use the vast resources of the subconscious or unconscious mind is incredibly valuable, and that's one of the things that NLP is expert at. And this is where motivation sits, and also demotivation and procrastination. It sits more in the unconscious mind. So when we can understand that, we can change our motivation and our attitudes. Then it also looks at linguistics. So linguistics is language, obviously, and it's also how we communicate. So how we communicate with others, how we understand how they communicate with us, and also how we communicate with ourselves. So this is very powerful. And finally, there's programming. So programming is the habits of thinking we have that lead to habits of behaviour. And some of that programming might come from our parents. So when you think about how often your parents needed to ask you to say please and thank you, and what is that magic word, how often they repeated that in order for you to have the manners of saying please and thank you. So that's a form of programming, probably more in a positive sense. But there's often a lot of programming that we find about attitudes towards money and success and relationships and health that sometimes is not so useful, that we might have picked up from our parents or from our culture or from a teacher or a partner or a family member or a sibling when we were much younger. So it's really cool to be able to change those default positions in our mind so that we can have more access to what it is that we want. So basically, NLP is how to use the language of success to change our mind so that we can program ourselves for more effective outcomes. So NLP's approach to change is to look at our thoughts plus our emotions and how that equals behaviour. So often when we're thinking about change, we tend to think about our behaviour. Oh, I want to change that behaviour. I want to stop smoking. I want to do my fitness goals. I want to encourage my teams. And what NLP says is that if you want to change that, first of all, you need to change your thinking, your mindset, and your emotions if you're going to change your behaviour. So real change happens up here rather than down here at the outcome. So how do we be empowered in our business? So this is part of the mindset tools of NLP. And the first thing that NLP did was NLP started in around about the 1970s with a guy called John Grinder and Richard Bandler. And they came together, and what they did was they were part of the human potential movement. And the human potential movement's very different from psychology and counselling, because whereas psychology and counselling are looking at dysfunctional people and how they can become functional or normal, NLP and the human potential movement was looking at an ordinary person and how they can become extraordinary or successful. And so it was really the study of excellence. And NLP looked at excellent people who were excellent communicators, particularly Virginia Satir in family therapy and Milton Erickson, who was a psychologist and interested in hypnotherapy, and how they could use these wonderful language tools that these people were experts in to create effective change. And what they did was they did what we call modelling. So they went and they saw how those people did what they did, and then they took those tools and they installed them in themselves, and then they saw if they could get the same outcome as those experts much more quickly than experience would give us. And then they started to teach that to other people and see whether they could get great results as well, and they found they could. And so this became part of how NLP developed its success strategies. And the very first tool of NLP in terms of the mindset of success is the cause and effect equation. So let's have a little look at this now. So one of the most effective tools that is part of the NLP arsenal for successful mindset is the cause and effect equation. So basically what it looks at is that you can either be at the cause side of the equation, that's taking responsibility for your results, or you can be at the effect side of the equation, and that is being at the effect of other people, basically being a victim of other people's influence or a victim of circumstance. And basically when NLP studied successful people, they found that successful people took responsibility for their own problems, took responsibility for the situation, and that allowed a successful person to think about how they could be empowered to make change. So basically, the more you are on the cause side of the equation and the less you are on the effect side, the more results you get instead of reasons and excuses for what's going on, and the more empowered you are. So this is incredibly important in business success, because if we take personal responsibility for everything that is happening in our business, then we have more empowerment within our business. So what happens with a lot of business owners is they might have a staff member who is not effective, and then they're blaming the staff member and are trying to get the staff member to change. And what if that staff member doesn't want to change? All that happens for the business owner is there's a raising level of frustration as they keep banging their head against a brick wall whilst they just can't get this person to make the change that they want. Now, if we keep blaming that person, then we're just stuck banging our head against a brick wall. The rising frustration stops us being creative or looking at other solutions. But when we become at cause, the first thing that we're cause for as a business owner is that we employed that person. So if that's not the right person, we might need to think about how we're employing people and what is the process that we're going through when we advertise a position, and what's the process we're going through when we're picking the person, and is it effective, or do we need to change the way that we're doing that? Then the second thing we need to be at cause for is how are we communicating with that staff member? Are we building rapport with that staff member? Does that staff member trust us? Does that staff member want to listen to what we're saying? And do they want to go about fulfilling the instructions we're giving them? Because sometimes the way we communicate with somebody really puts them off instead of getting them motivated to do what we want them to do. So for instance, I'm going to talk about this in a later show, but just a little tool. If you say you have to do this and you have to get it in on time, well, the have to tends to make people resistant to doing what you ask them to. Where if you adjust your communication skills and you say it's really important that we get this in on time because it's going to make a big difference to our business and our results. So when you say that, then people are much more motivated to go ahead and do what you are asking them to do. So now at the cause side of the equation, I can take personal responsibility for the way I'm communicating. I can take responsibility for the fact that I employed that person. And I can also start to look at whether I feel that this person is the person who's best suited for that role. Maybe their role's expanded and what they used to be really good at, now they're being asked to do something that they're not good at, isn't in part of their skill set. And finally, I might want to think about maybe this person isn't going to change and I might need an exit strategy for this person. But when I'm at the cause side of the equation, I am empowered to make those decisions. I can start to be creative with my thinking, and this is how I get results and the results that I want. So always think about in your own life as a business owner, think about, am I sitting on the effect side of the equation or am I sitting at the cause side of the equation? And I'm at effect, who am I blaming? And how can I move myself over to cause and start to think about solutions and having a solution focus rather than having a victim of my own staff or employees focus? So this is a really important aspect. It's also really important with changing concepts within the economy. So we can either be at the effect of the economy, and we can be blaming the economy for what is going on with our results in sales, or we can be at cause, not a cause for the economy, of course, but cause for how we respond to the economy. So in every single economy, no matter what has ever happened, whether it is a depression or a GFC or anything, there have always been businesses who have succeeded during that economy, because it's not like the money has gone anywhere. The money is just circulating differently. So if we go at cause for how our business is responding to things like that, then we can start to really be empowered. So for instance, when the GFC struck, in my business, it's a personal development and coaching business, a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, how is your business going? And I was like, my business is going brilliantly, because what was happening was in a GFC, people are losing confidence. They're looking for more personal development trainings, but also too, interest rates went down and there was actually a huge amount of availability for from my target audience, because most of the people who come to me are homeowners. So in actual fact, they had far more money available to them than they had prior to the GFC. But if I had been on the effect side of the equation and gone, oh no, there's a GFC, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm the victim of that, then I wouldn't be looking at and maybe not even be motivated to go out there and to do the sales trainings that I was doing at that time, or to do the personal change programs that I was doing at that time. Because sometimes when we're at effect, people simply give up and are not motivated. And it's also true as part of your teams. So say you've got a sales team. Do they suddenly get at the effect and blame the person they're selling to for the reason why the sale hasn't gone through? Instead of looking at themselves, maybe increasing their education, their communication skills, and starting to think about, how can I adjust myself so that I'm appealing to more people? And later on in the shows in NLP for Business, we'll be looking at exactly how to do that. So the next aspect is, how does your business success reflect your mindset? So one of the things that's so important for us to understand is that your business is a reflection of you. It is a reflection of your beliefs. It's a reflection of your...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.